So you want to make micarta, a vintage owl here, with hopefully some new ideas, some new tricks that will help you with the quality of your micarta. Most people, I've watched a lot of videos, and a lot of people use a wax paper, and you know, it's pretty cheap. You just wrap your wood in it, and if you're making a handle for yourself, that's great. You know, it's inexpensive, but I say there's better options, so we'll get rid of that. A lot of times I'll use parchment paper. It may be a little bit more expensive, but you can actually use it over and over again. When you go to peel it off, it comes off in one piece, unlike some of the wax paper I've seen where people actually, when they take it off their knife, they have, or their scales, they have to sand them down before they can work with them because of the bits of wax paper. So parchment paper, you buy it in the same section at your store as you do the wax paper. So that's maybe option number two. If you're making it for yourself, like I say, a couple boards, piece of wax paper, a couple clamps, and go to it. But if you want to make more than one of the things that you need to try to do is save as much money as you can. So I look for things that can be reused, and parchment paper can be reused over and over several times. Another option that I use or have used is the little cutting mats, and you can just lay these out on your board and sandwich your micarta between two of these, and it peels off really easily, and you can cut it to whatever size you want, whatever size micarta you want to make. And like I said, it gives you a pretty nice smooth finish, but that also can be used. An option that I like even better than that are these. These are flexible cutting mats, and you can find them in the same section as you do the clear ones. The reason that I like these is they actually give you a much smoother finish, and they're also colored, so when you go to peel them off, you can find that edge, where with the clear ones, when you're using clear resin, sometimes it's hard to find that edge and get, you know, where you can separate it. So these actually help you find that edge and peel it off. And they also can be cut to size, however size press you want. And like I said, they're just a super smooth finish on your micarta when you get done. Now the finish is not that important if you're making one for yourself, but if you're making it for other people, some people like a really smooth finish, and that will give you a very smooth finish. Another thing you can use are the bigger cutting boards. Now these you can get for, I don't know, 10 or 12 bucks in the same section of your big box stores. And you can get these cutting boards, you can cut them down to the size that you want. Just lay them down, put your material on top, and then sandwich another piece on top, and then clamp it down, or like I like to do, weight it down. But anyway, I use these a lot. Today I'm going to use a container, and these are just plastic containers. They give me a really smooth finish on the bottom. I've already tried them. The micarta pops right out when you get done, and I will usually coat them with a little bit of olive oil, just a spray, and then I wipe it down with a rag because the olive oil kind of has a yellowy tint to it. So I'll just wipe the inside out to get the excess, and then like I said, it pops right out of these. And you can buy these in different sizes, and these are smaller ones. Usually I make probably about an 8.5 by 11. These are a little bit smaller. You also need something to measure it in. I use an epoxy based resin, and the reason that I use it is because it's low odor and clear, and a lot of people use the fiberglass resins, and they smell so bad even a year after you make the handle material. I've had some sitting around, I can still smell that. And if you're a hunter in the woods, more than likely you don't want, I mean, you're trying to mask the odors. You don't want that knife handle giving off any kind of a funky smell. So anyway, mine is, I just measure mine out, take a cup, pre-measure it. It's 2-to-1 ratio, so I've got one here at 6 ounces, and then another piece of duct tape here for another 3 ounces. So I'll pour my resin in, and then I pour my hardener in and mix it up that way. And basically you just want to mix it until you don't see any swirls anymore. Before we go any farther though, I have to mention safety gear. Your personal protective equipment, definitely get some gloves. A lot of guys put 2 or 3 pairs on so that they can peel them off. If they get a hole in them, it keeps them off. These are seem to do pretty well with just 1 pair. I've had a hole tear in them before, but generally for what I do, I can, you know, make several batches without getting any holes in them. And they're longer, so they also give me more protection. So you want to protect your skin, you want to protect your eyes, so get a pair of goggles. And you also don't want to breathe the stuff, so get yourself a respirator. For the purpose of today's video, I've got a nice crosswind and I'm outside, so we'll probably forgo that. I'm just mixing with a stirring stick, so there shouldn't be any splash or anything, and like I said, the wind's blowing away from me. So so basically, got my container, I've got my cutting board, cut the size to fit down in there, and then because this is a little bit deeper, I've got some pieces of wood. Now you can wrap the parchment paper around this to save it. I've actually coated these with some just Crisco, and I'm hoping that it'll help, you know, not stick. If it does stick, I can just trim off the edges and peel it off anyway. So because you're going to get some resin that comes up and when you press it down. I've made some different kinds of presses. If you use the cutting boards, you can make different kinds of presses. This is one for just a longer, thinner piece, and it's cutting board. The sides are made from cutting board. The end is just to keep the sides from separating, but that's a piece of cutting board. And then I have a cutting board inlay, which lays down in the bottom. And then you just clamp that down after you put your micarta in there. I did a previous video, I haven't posted it yet, but these are the ones that I made on it with that little press that I just showed you. I use clamps on that, which I don't often use clamps because you probably can't see it, but when I clamp them down, it's really difficult to get the same thickness, uniform thickness through there. You always get a little bit tighter squeeze on one end than the other, so I generally don't use clamps. I'll show you what to do here in a minute. But you'll need, of course, your material. You can use about anything. I've used cotton t-shirts, denim, canvas, linens. Here's some linens. I got just different colors cut up, little pieces. And this is actually sheep's wool. And this is compliments of my sister. She raises Icelandic sheep, and she sends me the wool. And I really love the handles that come out of this because the texture, after you sand it, makes a really nice grip. Even when your hands get wet, it almost grips even better as your hand gets wet. So, you know, if you're processing a deer or something like that, and your hands get blood and stuff on them, this stuff still will give you a pretty good texture, and the knife won't slip around in your hand. So you need a mixing bowl, something to mix it in, and I think that's about it. Like I said, I don't use clamps. I'm going to be using some weights so that I get a more consistent squeeze, and we'll see if that doesn't work. I've got some burlap micarta here that I made a while back. And you know, as far as durability, you know, it's pretty stout. I'm going to edit that out. it's pretty stout, so you can hit that stuff and you really can't even see any dimples in it. It just dusted up the front a little bit, but put that on a knife, that thing will last you a long time. So without any further ado, clean up my mess here that I just made. I've got some epoxy mixed up or ready to mix up, and got it in here for the sake of time. I went ahead and pre-measured it, and I'm going to mix it together and then we'll get started. I'm going to start with the cloth first, because in my bucket, if I do the Icelandic sheep wool, then I know there's going to be a lot of hair in here, so I'm going to go ahead and start with this first and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so I poured my epoxy and my hardener in there, like I said, 2-to-1 ratio, and as you mix it, it'll get cloudy. And you just want to keep mixing it, get it all around real good. We'll probably speed through this part in the video because, you know, there's 100 videos out there of how to do this and things like that, but just wanted to give you kind of an idea. Stir and stick, cup, mix it around for a few minutes. Now I have a mixer in there that I use if you're doing more than a few batches. This will work on your arm, so if you're doing a lot of them, you might want to develop some kind of a mixing device. Help speed things up a little bit. A lot of trial and error goes into making micarta, especially when you're using little pieces and different size containers and stuff like that. So we're just going to kind of eyeball it. I think I pretty well can use all of this. Another reason that I use the epoxy is that it gives me about a 45-minute pot life, which means it won't start hardening for about 45 minutes on me. And I've done 6 to 9 batches at a time using the same cup, and you know, I don't have any clumps or anything like that. When I add the fresh to it, I guess it just starts the process all over. But anyway, I think we got that pretty good. We'll go ahead and mix this up and get it into our press. Take a minute while I'm doing this and thank my daughter. She's doing the filming today, and I got her up a little earlier than she wanted, but we're expecting a little bit of rain today maybe, so I want to go ahead and get this done before the rain's moved in. I wish a cloud would go over right now. It's pretty hot out here. We're just blending all that in, making sure we get a good coating of resin in there on all the pieces, all the sides. Soaking up all the excess resin down in there. Now my blocks are cut just a little smaller than the container, and that'll allow the air bubbles and things like that. When you're making homemade micarta, chances are you're going to probably have some bubbles. So you want to eliminate as much of that as you can. But I think we're getting that pretty good. And we'll just plop it in here. Like I said, that's going to give me a good smooth, one really smooth side and one textured side. Just want to kind of spread that around where you get an even, pretty even squeeze. Fill in the gaps. This method seems to be about as non-messy as it gets. Typically I have a flat surface, put the cutting boards on it, and then squeeze it down. And you know, you get a lot of runoff and stuff like that, drippage. If you have pets, you might want to put them up. If you're doing it like that with just, say, a flat cutting board. But we got that in there pretty even. Then we're going to take our cutting board, lay it in there flat, maybe give it a little squeeze, and our wooden block. That may not squeeze a whole lot, so I think what I'm going to do, I've got an extra cutting board here, I think I'm going to lay it on top. Or you could actually put it under the block of wood to make it a little thicker. That way I get a pretty decent squeeze. And if it squeezes down to near the top of that ridge, that'll give me a good thickness, probably I'm hoping about 5/16, maybe 3/8. And we're just going to take a block and set it on here. Now if you don't think that's enough weight, you can always add more to it. A couple of smaller blocks. And that one's done. Wait about 24 hours, that'll be ready to come out, and then we'll do the sheep's wool. And I'll be right back with some, we'll go ahead and put this in there. Be right back to mix up the resin in that. Now I would normally, we'll wait 24 hours on that and everything, but for the purpose of the video, I've got a batch that I've already made up in a larger press. I use the cutting boards, as you can see, and I haven't taken these out, but just to give you an idea, maybe it won't be too hard to get them out of here. You can see that peels right out of there. You're making a lot of these, time and money are very important. So anything you could do to help yourself, and you see the cutting board come off of there, and that just peels right off. And that all can be reused, cleaned up and reused. And then on the back I've got a piece of cutting board, and that just peels right off. And we'll just trim up the edges and cut the size pieces that we need. Now this had a couple little bubbles in it, but the bubbles are pretty easily fixed if you're making your own. Probably just didn't use quite enough resin, but a lot of trial and error goes into it. I never used that press before, and but anyway, you see how easily it comes off, and that's the main thing. So you just have to figure out how much resin you need, and what works best for you. But those are just some tricks that I've learned over the last year or so that have increased the quality of the finish, generally speaking, and hopefully you can incorporate some of that into yours, save you a little time, hopefully by using the same stuff over and over again, save you some money. But that's all we have today, and maybe in a later video we'll take these out. But like I said, I pretty much showed you what kind of product you get out of it. If you do find a product, or if you buy a product and it's got some bubbles in the outside after you sand it down, you can take some epoxy resin and the store-bought stuff, and just mix up a little bit, fill in the holes, and then sand it off, and you won't even know they were ever there. So but anyway, that's part of my process, one of the processes. I've got some new things that I want to try coming down the line, some natural type stuff that you'd find in the environment. I want to try to use that and see, some things may work, some won't obviously, but hopefully this gave you some ideas To speed up your process, I just made enough for, you know, probably 4 good sized knives. I'll get probably 4 pieces out of each one of them, so and that took, you know, a few minutes. So anyway, hopefully that'll help you, and you know, look forward to showing you some more videos on some new stuff that I'm trying. And again, thanks to my daughter for doing the videoing, and hopefully you like it. Give me your ideas if you have any. If you've learned anything that could help me make it faster, better, cleaner, nicer, you know, I'm always open to suggestions, and I'm always trying new stuff. So you know, feel free to comment, and thank you for your time.